Welcome back, Goblin Chef's APGAINS. Today we want to talk about easily the most hyped part of this game that is not game-breaking if not done correctly, because as we'll talk about towards the second half of the video, there is kind of a backdoor escape CG can make to kind of retroactively alleviate some issues in the future if they need to. But this is a lot of social pressure being put upon them, and I kind of want to just discuss the elephant in the room that is the Witch King. Now, we're going to touch on a number of points, and they're going to build on top of each other. So obviously, the full story is not going to be presented in the first 2 minutes. When we get to halfway through, there's still going to be more to tell. So you're going to have to kind of, I guess, wait till the end to kind of have all of the pieces of information put together, presented before we can all go out with our pitchforks, like apparently HOM-E YouTubers like to do, and be mad at everything. First and foremost, the elephant that Witch King is not coming. We have official communication from CG that there is tons of ambiguity around whether or not the Horadrim are going to be the characters that you use to get the Witch King. Now, I would like to very, very clearly state that it is not a definite no that the Witch King will not be unlocked with Horadrim at any point or even soon. It was just very clearly stated to us that we should not get our hopes up in this regard. I think that's a lot of, for those of you guys who played Galaxy of Heroes for a number of years, it's very important for them to kind of have a backdoor excuse just in case something goes wrong. In Galaxy of Heroes, it's the case that they have to answer to EA and their executives at CG, plus Lucasfilms and Disney and all this stuff. So promises that they make in that avenue can quickly kind of dissipate and be retracted, and, their eternal, everything is subject to change kind of excuse that's kind of a meme at this point is important there. I don't know the oversights that they have on HOM-E simply because with other Lord of the Rings games that are officially licensed and stuff like that, they get a lot of leeway, and I'm not sure that is incredibly stringent in the way that Star Wars is as a whole. So I think this is kind of just a carryover from the company culture of kind of covering your ass just in case. So I am kind of 50-50 on whether I believe that the Witch King is actually going to be coming via the Horadrim at all. I don't know when that's going to happen. And I most certainly couldn't tell you for any certainty, and no one could, regardless of data mines, whether that's going to happen or not. So with that all out of the way, that's kind of the preamble to the big, realistic Witch King problem. So let's assume that at some point the Witch King is going to come. He's going to have 4 other Nazgul characters alongside him. They're going to be the meta-defining team. A lot of the community has already dubbed the Witch King as the CLS of HOM-E, right? CLS, for those of you guys who don't play Galaxy of Heroes, is kind of this character that came out 6 years ago, very early, not day one, but very early in the life cycle of the game, and was really strong, and through incremental changes and adding of characters has maintained his status even to this day, 6 years later, as one of the most powerful free-to-play teams in the entire game. Now, we might not think of the Witch King as a free-to-play character, and people most certainly did not think of CLS as a free-to-play character or in team. And for those of you guys who don't play Galaxy of Heroes, CLS stands for Commander Luke Skywalker. It's just the first Jedi version of Luke Skywalker that was introduced to the game. So sorry for using acronyms that you might not understand. The point being is that the Witch King is going to need to, one, maintain a level of power right now, but also have the ability to kind of transcend that power many years into the future. Now, like I talked about at the very beginning, they do have a way to kind of fix this many, many years down the line if they need to, that can kind of full stop reverse any bad decisions that they could have possibly made. We'll talk about that in like 2 minutes here, so stay with me. But the main sticking points with the Witch King model that's going to have to happen is it's going to have a leadership that for the rest of time is going to need to be competitive with the game, right? Whether it's his, with his ability to stun and stuff, it's going to be a leadership that applies tons of control. I know we kind of have his pre-existing kit that's not fantastic, but it is good. That's the AI version. So he's going to need to have some sort of turn meter manipulation, some sort of huge damage, some sort of insta-kill, some sort of control that's going to need to be really good now, but also is going to still theoretically be good in the future. Now, He's going to get 4 Nazgul characters alongside him to make up the team. I believe right now they're going to be the Southrun Shadow, the big tank guy. I honestly don't remember all of their names because they're largely kind of weirdly sounding. But since there are 9 Nazgul, I believe their saving grace at the moment is going to be the fact that they can have 4 of the 8 non-Witch King Nazgul right now to give them high power level, and then slowly add the other 4 over time as the team needs to keep up with the current meta of the day. Because imagine you're in a GAC, or for those of you guys who don't play Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, you're in this gigantic game mode, Battle of 5 Armies, call it, if you will, where you have to utilize your entire roster on offense and defense. If you have a scenario where the current meta on defense or offense is one that the Witch King and the Nazgul cannot compete in, you have 4 instances of characters that can be brought to the game with new abilities, new uniques that can revitalize it to the point where it can stay consistent with the meta. Now, whether they do that periodically with 1 at a time for the 4 remaining so that eventually years later we still have a consistent version, or they do it all at once many years down the line where they just give them 4 of the last 4 characters and they're god tier all of a sudden, I don't really have any insight whether it's going to be incremental or all at once. I think the main point is that when the Witch King comes out, it's going to need to be abundantly clear that his leadership ability is going to need to be transcendently good theoretically. Now, it could be something in the lines of Elrond, where Elrond on paper looks fucking busted, but realistically, the game is very much dependent on gear, as well as, ability levels and star levels and stuff like that. So what might look busted is not necessarily all that powerful if you have something that's just got more stats. Same thing with the Haradrim. On paper they look, they're sharing and they're doing all this stuff, but realistically they're not fantastic relative to the rest of the game. They're not transcendently powerful, right? It's going to need to be the case that they at least leave the door open for the kit to be transcendently powerful as the metas shift, right? I imagine that you guys are probably on board with, since this is largely a community sentiment, that the Nazgul are going to always need to be among the most powerful of squads in the game. As far as a GAC or TW perspective is concerned, they're going to need to be pillars. Whether or not they're fantastic in raids, I don't think anyone really gives a fuck because raids are not all that important. But from a PvP perspective, the kit needs to at least leave the door open for iteration in the future, whether incremental 1 at a time with the 4 remaining Nazgul, or instantaneous with 4 of them dropping in quick succession to kind of give the team new life. And that's going to be a lot easier if they do the heavy lifting now and have it so the Witch King has an easily malleable, relatively obviously powerful leadership ability that can transcend metas. I'm obviously sick, so I'm going to go. Thank you for watching. As always, I love you, and I'll see you later.